Heartwarming story, widower discovers life-changing purpose after buying family of 6 at auction. Joe sat on the porch of his small Midwestern home, the silence echoing in the space where laughter once rang. It seemed so harsh now, every creak of the old wooden steps, a reminder of the joy he lost when Marcy succumbed to that sudden illness. At 48, he was a widower, his heart a hollow echo chamber of memories. The vibrant town around him, once filled with community spirit, now felt heavy with a shared ache. All around him, he saw people like himself lost, struggling against the weight of everyday life. Yet they trudged on, trying to find their way amid the economic decline that had gripped the whole area like a heavy fog. One Friday afternoon, word spread through the local diner about a peculiar auction happening that weekend, not to clear out a home of its antiques, but selling off a family due to overwhelming debts. Joe's friends warned him against it, claiming it was bizarre. But he felt a strange pull. Maybe it wasn't just about saving them, perhaps it was about saving himself, rekindling the warmth and laughter that had left his life. The thought burned in his chest. Could this be his second chance at a real family? As the auction day dawned, the crowd buzzed with disbelief and curiosity. Joe's heart raced in time with the nervous energy around him. When the auctioneer raised his gavel, the palpable anticipation swept through the air, mixing with the murmurs from townsfolk curious about the family up for bid. Were they even real? And yet, as he looked at the mismatched group standing together, a father with weary eyes, a mother clinging to hope, and 4 children caught in a web of awkwardness, Joe felt something within him shift. This was it. He placed his bid, the numbers ringing in his ears, beating like a drum. And then it happened. He won. Joe stood there, heart racing, as the family stepped toward him. Relief washed over their faces, he could see gratitude shining through the fractures. But the path to transformation was anything but straightforward. Once they arrived at his home, the clashes began. The kids bickered, the parents were quiet, each bearing their ghosts. Joe's attempts to foster warmth felt stifled, like trying to breathe through a thick fog. There were good days filled with laughter and even bad meals that ended in shared desserts, but the misunderstandings dogged them. Just when things began to seem hopeful, Joe's past reared its ugly head, a long-buried secret threatening to unravel everything. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every heated argument that erupted, Joe feared it might drive them further apart. His heart, once so full of hope, tightened with anxiety. Could he fight through these tensions and mend their broken spirits, or were they all fighting with shadows too vast to overcome? As the rising storm of their emotions brewed, so too did the realization that they would have to face their deepest fears of rejection and acceptance head-on. The high-stakes dance of healing loomed ahead, but would they weather it together, or would the frail bonds they formed shatter irreparably? As tensions rose, each moment brought them closer to either reconciliation or disaster, leaving Joe teetering on the edge of hope and despair. Would he find the strength to unite them, or would his past struggles doom their fragile connection before it truly began? The following week felt like a whirlwind for Joe and the family he had bought. Living with them was both a challenge and a revelation. In the mornings, they stumbled around the house, tugging on shoes and wrestling with cereal boxes. It was a chaotic dance of hungry kids and rushing parents, but Joe found himself smiling at the mess of it all. Yet, the nights were different. After the kitchen chaos, silence crept in. The house, adorned with memories of Marcy's warmth, now carried a shift in energy. As he lay in bed, he often heard hushed voices and muffled sobs coming from the children's room. Their pain echoed his own, a shared isolation that had wrapped around them, each longing for a connection that felt just out of reach. Then came the showdown. One stormy night, as rain lashed against the windows, the tension finally broke. It began with a missing video game controller, escalating quickly into a shouting match between the oldest son, Jamie, and his younger sister, Lila. Tempers flared, hands flew in gestures of frustration, and before he knew what was happening, Joe felt himself standing in the thick of it, heart racing. "Stop it. You're not kids anymore, you're family," he shouted, the words spilling out with the force of thunder. A sudden stillness filled the room, broken only by the rain pounding outside. All eyes turned to him, startled by the outburst. Jamie, with tears glistening on his cheeks, pointed. "What do you know about family? You just bought us." The accusation struck Joe like a punch. He stood frozen, the weight of the truth pressing down on him. They were right. How could he pretend to understand their struggles when he was grappling with his own? But deep down, he knew he wanted more than just a facade of a family, he craved a real connection. "I know about loss," he stumbled, the words catching in his throat. "I lost my wife, and I thought if I could save you, maybe I could save myself." It was raw and unpolished, the honesty hanging thick in the air. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was different. It was filled with understanding, a fragile thread weaving through their shared experience. Slowly, Lila approached him, wiping her tears on her sleeve. Can we just talk?" Joe nodded, the storm outside mirroring the emotional tempest inside him. They sat together in the living room, the soft glow of the lamp creating a warm cocoon around them. One by one, they began to share their fears, their dreams, the bitterness of their pasts, and the hope for a new beginning. It felt like a healing process, each story pulling them slightly closer to one another, forging pathways in the rubble of their respective losses. "Maybe we can't erase what happened," Jamie finally said, his voice low, "but we can choose what happens next." Joe's heart swelled. That was it, wasn't it? A family wasn't just about living together, it was about healing together, stepping into the unknown side by side. The next day, Joe decided to host a family meeting, hoping to establish new traditions and goals. "Let us work through this together," he proposed, watching the family members exchange cautious glances. Then a glimmer of hope ignited in their eyes, and just like that, the first step was taken. But just as new beginnings seemed within reach, a letter arrived in the mail, bringing with it unwelcome news that threatened to tear their fragile bond apart. Joe's past, now clawing its way back into the present, would force them to confront even more stark realities. What awaited them on the other side of this challenge? Joe felt a shiver of dread, but he also felt the flicker of determination light up inside him. Would they band together when faced with this new storm, or would it drive them apart? Joe stared at the letter, his hands trembling slightly as he tore it open. The words danced before his eyes, but the message was all too clear: eviction proceedings. The very house he had hoped to make a home was now at risk. A place where laughter should flourish was threatened by a situation he had tried so hard to escape. "Just a little setback," he whispered to himself, but the words felt empty. He glanced at the kids, who were sprawled across the living room floor, engrossed in some kind of board game that required far too many rules for Joe's comfort. Their chatter hung in the air like a melody he wanted so much to hold on to, but the letter felt like an anchor pulling him down. "All right, let us focus on our family meeting," he said, forcing a smile. They deserved his full attention, even if his heart was pounding like a drum in his chest. Sitting across from him, Jamie looked up. "What did the letter say?" Joe hesitated, then sighed. "It's not good, but right now, let us talk about what we can do together moving forward." The choice was clear: a brave face for their sake, even if inside he felt himself crumble. "What do you mean?" Lila piped up, her innocent eyes shining with curiosity. "I mean, this house is just a structure, right? What matters is what we make of it, together," he said, his heart racing at the feeble attempt to spin a silver lining from the looming cloud. "We can do things that help us grow closer. Traditions. Activities. Something to change the energy in this house." Like game night? Jamie offered, glancing over at Lila, who nodded eagerly. Yeah. And we can have theme nights. Like movie marathons. Lila added, her enthusiasm contagious. Or we can cook together on Sundays. Everyone picks a dish, Jamie suggested, his eyes lighting up as he caught the excitement in the room. Joe felt a swell of pride as plans began to form, the letter forgotten for just a moment. Their laughter mixed together, and he felt a warmth spread through his chest. Let us make sure we keep working on understanding each other too, he said as the ideas flowed. I want to hear your thoughts and how you all want to shape this family. They continued to share their wild imaginations, baking contests, family sports days, and even inviting the neighbors for barbecues. Laughter and clapping filled the house, as if the walls themselves were cheering them on. As they wrapped up, Joe felt lighter, but he also felt that nagging worry linger at the edges of his mind. Remember, guys, this will take time. Everyone is still processing, he cautioned gently. And I want to be honest with you about some things. But we're in this together, right? Jamie's question was simple yet layered with the weight of reliance. Right, Joe replied, smiling through a bittersweet lump in his throat. But that night, as Joe lay in bed with the muffled sounds of the children still playing softly in the distance, he couldn't shake the gnawing fear that wrapped around him like a storm cloud. What if they decided they didn't want to stay? What if it all unraveled? Just then, a knock came at his door. It was Jamie, his eyes still filled with the excitement of earlier but with a serious undertone. Can we talk? Joe's heart raced again, worry creeping in. Of course, buddy. The door creaked open slowly, and as Jamie stepped inside, Joe felt the storm brewing anew, but said nothing, bracing himself for whatever was to come. What heavy truth lay ahead? Would Jamie's voice shatter the fragile peace they built, or would it lead them to something unexpected? Jamie shuffled into the room, his small frame exuding both an eagerness and a weight that wrapped around Joe's heart. The flickering light from the lamp cast shadows on the walls, illuminating the uncertainty on Jamie's face. Dad, Jamie began, his voice barely a whisper, I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything. Joe took a deep breath, motioning for him to continue. What's on your mind, buddy? I know things are tough, Jamie said, his fingers tracing the seams of the carpet. But I really love this house. I love being here with you and Lila. It feels, I don't know, safe. But what if we lose it? What happens next? His eyes held unshed tears, and they practically broke Joe's heart. We'll figure it out, Joe replied, the weight of the truth cracking his voice. We always do. Home is more about us than where we sleep at night. I promise you that. Jamie looked up, searching his father's face for conviction, but Joe could see the shadows of doubt dancing behind those innocent eyes. But what if it's not enough? What if we have to move or go somewhere different? Joe's heart sank. How could he reassure Jamie when he didn't truly believe it himself? We'll make it work, Jamie. Even if the house changes, our family won't. A pause hung between them, thick and earnest. Joe shifted, trying to collect his thoughts. The most important thing is that we stick together, no matter what. Do you trust me? Jamie nodded, but it felt slow and wobbly, like the very foundation Joe had vowed to protect. Then let us talk about what we want, not what we fear, Joe suggested, leaning forward. What do you dream about? Jamie hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. I wish we could do something big together. Like a trip to the beach or the mountains. Just us. Enough time to just be us. A pang of longing hit Joe. He could picture it clearly, the waves breaking against the shore, Lila running in the sand with her laughter ringing out like a bell. That sounds amazing, but it's a big trip. We'll need to plan and save. All right, but can we start with something small? Like taking a day off soon. Jamie's enthusiasm sparked in his voice. We could go hiking. Just the three of us. It'd be fun. Absolutely. A mini adventure. Joe smiled, feeling a flicker of hope. That way, maybe we can show we're not just surviving here. We're living, Dad. That's the spirit. Joe felt lighter as the worry slightly lifted. Let's make it our first family tradition. I'll clear my schedule. I want to be a part of this. We can have little adventures, even if we have to stay close to home. Yeah. Jamie beamed, the flicker of hope growing into a determined flame. We could explore parks in the area and make it a challenge. See who finds the coolest spots. Joe smiled back, captivated by his son's energy. You're right, buddy. Small steps. It can be our family tradition. The weight in his heart dissipated a little, but the reality of their situation loomed in the background, still pulling at him. As they shared their newfound excitement, Joe couldn't shake the idea that their plans would mean little if he couldn't secure their home. Listen, Jamie, he said softly, we're going to get through this, but I need you to promise me something. What? Jamie asked, his brow furrowing. Promise me you won't lose hope. No matter what happens. I promise, Jamie whispered, sealing the moment with sincerity. As Joe hugged his son, he felt the warmth envelop them, yet he also felt that familiar ache settling back in. They were just words, after all. He needed a plan, something concrete. In the silence that followed, a thought nagged at him. Could there be more? A way to secure their future and their home before it was too late? How do you feel about having a family meeting with everyone tomorrow? Maybe we can brainstorm more ideas? Sure. I think Lila will love it, Jamie said, visibly excited. But as Jamie left the room, Joe's mind turned inwards. Could he be the one to get creative in turning things around? He rolled around ideas in his head, but nothing seemed to fit. Until a memory flickered, an old conversation about auctions blinking back at him. What would it take? Suddenly, the prospect glimmered like a distant light. What if the answer lay in something he hadn't considered? Would he have the courage to chase it down? The next day dawned bright and clear, the sun painting the kitchen in soft golden hues. Joe felt a sense of urgency brewing within him, a mix of excitement and anxiety as he scrambled to organize their proposed family meeting. He brewed coffee, the rich aroma filling the air, and set out a spread of simple breakfast foods, toast, fruit, and the last of the cereal. When Lila stumbled into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes, Joe turned to her with a tentative smile. Morning, sunshine. We've got a family meeting planned for later. Jamie has some great ideas. Lila, her hair tousled and sleep still lingering in her eyes, blinked in surprise. A meeting? At breakfast? What's the agenda? Are we voting on cereal choices? Joe chuckled, feeling lighter. Not quite. It's about our family adventures, those little trips we talked about. Count me in, she said with a grin, her energy slowly awakening. What do you want to do? Climb a mountain? Swim in the ocean? Joe hesitated. It all felt so overwhelming all at once. I just want us to find ways to connect, to feel more at home, no matter what happens. Jamie barged in, his excitement palpable. Did I hear the word meeting? I've been thinking of potential hikes. There's that one near the lake that has the giant slide. His eyes sparkled with a childlike wonder, each idea igniting wild hopes and dreams. Sounds perfect, Joe replied, his heart swelling at the sight of his two kids brimming with enthusiasm. It reminded him why they had to fight for their home, their family, everything they cherished. The three of them gathered around the dining table. After a quick bite, Joe couldn't put off the heart of the meeting any longer. All right, team. Let us share ideas on our adventures. Jamie, you go first. Jamie leaned forward, his hands clenched. I want us to go hiking. But not just any hike. We should make it a tournament. We can take pictures of what we find, and whoever finds the coolest thing gets to choose next time. What a great idea! Lila exclaimed. We could even create a scrapbook to remember each adventure. As they brainstormed, the walls seemed to fade away. Laughter bubbled over as Jamie mimicked a squirrel he once spotted on a hike, and Lila chimed in with impersonations of their last beach trip. Still, amidst their excitement, something nagged at Joe's mind. The thought of the auction kept creeping back, a whisper beneath the surface. What if he did take a leap? What if he bought back what they had lost? The meeting flowed easily, but every so often, Joe paused. What were they truly hoping for? It wasn't just a trip, it was about rekindling their bond, restoring the family's strength. Later, as they cleaned up, Lila nudged him. Dad, you okay? You've been kinda quiet. I'm fine. Just thinking about how to make these adventures a reality, Joe replied, forcing a smile. She fixed him with a knowing look. This is about more than hiking, isn't it? Joe sighed, the weight creeping back. Yeah. There's something else on my mind. I want to protect this family, our home, our lives. Don't worry, Dad, Jamie interjected, enthusiasm still crackling in his voice. As long as we're together, that's what matters. As evening settled in, Joe stared out the window, the light fading but illuminating the thoughts swirling within him. He felt a shift inside, a rumbling of courage that somehow felt attainable. What if he could take a step toward change? A thought flared to life, electrifying and daunting. What if he really took that chance with the auction? His heart raced. Would pursuing this new path secure his family's future? Yet, doubt lingered like a shadow, twisting the edges of his resolve. Tomorrow, he murmured to himself, I need to decide. As he turned to the kids, laughter echoing in the living room, Joe couldn't shake the feeling that the answer was just beyond his reach, waiting to be seized. Could he muster the courage, not just for himself but for his family? Or would he let fear hold him back yet again? The stakes were high, but the potential for hope was even higher. And he knew, deep down, that the real adventure was just beginning. The next morning, Joe woke up with a knot in his stomach. He lay in bed for a moment, staring at the ceiling, the sunlight streaming through the curtains. Today's the day, he reminded himself, gripping the sheets tightly. He felt the weight of his family's hopes resting on his shoulders. After a quick breakfast, he gathered his children in the living room. Jamie was full of energy, bouncing around the room while Lila sorted through her backpack, checking for her hike essentials. Their excitement was contagious, yet Joe couldn't shake the heaviness in his heart. Hey, kids, he started, trying to sound casual, how about we talk a little more about our plans? Lila, looking up with wide eyes, smiled. Are we gonna start the scrapbook now? Joe nodded, feeling a rush of warmth. Yeah, let us plan out not just our hiking tournament but also a few other things. What if we made a list of places we want to see together? Jamie kicked a nearby soccer ball, his enthusiasm bubbling over. Can we add the aquarium? I want to see the sharks again. Sure. Joe replied, feeling a little lighter. This was what he needed, moments that reminded him of joy. He wanted not just to create memories but also to keep them alive, to let them stay with his children, always. As they rattled off suggestions, he pictured their adventures singing songs in the car, laughter echoing on trails, sand between their toes at the beach. Then, abruptly, the thought of the auction pierced through the warmth. Joe shoved it aside, not wanting to ruin the moment, but it loomed like a storm cloud. Just as he was about to share another idea, he caught Lila's serious gaze on him, her brow furrowed. Dad, are you sure you're okay? She asked, her voice gentle and probing. You've been acting different, like, sad. He hesitated, unsure how to unravel what was tangled inside him. I'm just trying to figure things out. Sometimes, decisions feel really big, and he stopped, clenched his fists, and felt a lump rise in his throat. Like the auction? Jamie chimed in, the spark flickering in his eyes. You're worried about losing the house? Joe's heart sank. They were so perceptive, his kids, picking at the threads he tried to keep sewn together. He took a deep breath before nodding, as the truth hung in the air. I want to keep the place we call home, he said quietly. And I want us to have our adventures, no matter what happens. Lila scooted closer, taking his hand. Dad, it's not just the house that makes a home. It's us. We can make memories anywhere. Yeah, so don't stress, Jamie added, if we all stick together, everything'll be fine. Their words washed over him like a soothing wave, easing his racing heart. He smiled at them, gratitude bubbling up. You two are right. As long as we have each other, we'll figure it out. But then another thought struck him. What if he didn't just focus on the auction? What if he actually made a bid? Could he really reclaim what they had lost? Joe fixed his gaze on the two of them, hope flickering like a small flame in the wind. Their laughter echoed in his mind, and he felt resolve swell. There was magic in their bond, an adventure just waiting to unfold. As they finished their planning session, Joe could feel the shift beginning within him. The doubt was still there, but behind it lay an ember of determination. What if he could be brave enough to change the course of their lives? The thought sparkled like stars over their heads, illuminating everything ahead. Tomorrow, he would face the auction. But for now, he would hold tightly to what really mattered: his family, their laughter, and the adventures they were yet to create. And as he looked into the depths of their trusting eyes, he felt a sense of purpose surge within him. What if this was more than just an auction? What if it was a chance to reclaim everything? Tomorrow was not just another day. It was the first step towards their greatest journey yet. How could he let this opportunity slip away? As the sun dipped low in the sky, painting the world in hues of gold and orange, Joe found himself sitting at the kitchen table, sifting through the auction pamphlet. It felt like a lifeline, yet it was weighted with uncertainty. His heart thudded in rhythm with the ticking clock. Each tick brought him closer to a decision that could alter everything. Lila and Jamie were sprawled on the floor, flipping through the pages of their scrapbooks, lost in a world of creativity. Laughter filled the room, their joy wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. He glanced over his shoulder, eyes landing on the pictures hanging on the wall, family moments frozen in time. Each smile, each adventure captured would whisper of memories he didn't want to lose. Hey, kids, he called softly, trying to mask the turmoil inside. What do you think about having a special surprise tomorrow after the auction? Jamie's head perked up immediately. A surprise? Like what? He bounced forward, the vibrant energy he always had shining in his eyes. Maybe a picnic in the park, Joe suggested, feeling the warmth of their excitement seep through him. We could pack our favorite snacks and play soccer, just like last summer. Yeah. Lila chimed in, her eyes sparkling. And we can bring Bubbles too. Joe smiled at their joy, but a shadow of doubt crept back. Would this be their last picnic at the park they loved? Anxiety gnawed at his insides, but he steeled himself. Today was about hope, about forward movement, and for his kids' sake, he had to embrace it. As dusk settled in, he pulled out his phone and stared at the auction details once more. Each number seemed to taunt him, whispering fears about the consequences of his bid. What if he lost everything? Images of their cozy living room and backyard laughter danced in his mind. Could he find a way to protect all they held dear? Dad, Lila's gentle voice broke his thoughts. He turned to see her looking up at him with concern. You're thinking too hard again. What's wrong? I'm just planning things out, sweetheart, he replied, forcing a grin. Just want to make sure we have the best time tomorrow. Okay, she said quietly, though her instincts told her there was more. As bedtime approached, Joe tucked the kids in, and their little voices filled the room with chatter about their favorite memories. Lila mentioned the time they built a fort out of blankets, and Jamie brought up his epic soccer goal from last spring. Every moment felt like an arrow of hope, piercing through his doubts. Once the kids were asleep, Joe settled on the couch, drifting back to what Lila said earlier, "It's not just the house that makes a home." The words echoed profoundly in his heart. He didn't just need to protect their house, he needed to protect the love that made it a home. He pulled out the pamphlet again, his pulse quickening. The fear intertwined with hope, pushing and pulling within him. What if he took that leap? What if he bid, not just to keep a building but to affirm their strength as a family? Perhaps tomorrow was more than a day of choices. As he held the pamphlet tight, something shifted inside him, an awakening. This was the line between fear and hope, and he didn't want to stand frozen on the edge anymore. Tomorrow would be about more than a bid, it would be a declaration of love, a promise. Closing his eyes, he drifted into dreams of new beginnings and bright tomorrows, wondering, would he have the courage to leap into the unknown when the moment called for it? Morning broke with a brilliant blue sky, the sun spilling its warmth into Joe's kitchen like a cup of freshly brewed coffee. He stirred from sleep, rubbing his eyes and letting the promise of the day wash over him. The sounds of Lila and Jamie's laughter floated in from the yard, the sweet notes reminiscent of summer days gone by. It was a good sound. As he brews the coffee, Joe allows himself a moment of reflection. Today was the day the auction loomed ahead like an unpredictable storm, filled with potential chaos. He could feel the pang of anxiety wrap around his chest, but he pushed it aside. Instead, he focused on the joy his children brought him. They were his anchor, the reason he had to dig deep, to fight for their future. He joined them outside, where the sun embraced them like a warm hug. The kids were already setting up for their picnic, laying out a colorful blanket in the grass, stacked with their favorite snacks. Lila hummed a playful tune while Jamie chased after bubbles that danced in the sunlight. "Dad! Look at how high I can jump!" Jamie squealed, leaping with all his might, his laughter echoing in the air. Joe chuckled, a genuine smile breaking through his earlier worries. "I see you, champ. Keep those feet moving." He felt a wave of gratefulness wash over him. These small moments filled with laughter felt like everything he ever wanted. After packing the picnic basket with sandwiches, fruit, and juice, they made their way to the park. The familiar sight of the swings and slides greeted them like old friends, evoking memories of countless weekends spent in play. As they spread out the blanket under a tall oak tree, Joe watched his children in their element. They were laughter and innocence, reminding him that life, no matter its challenges, was filled with brightness. "Remember that big treehouse we always talked about building?" Joe asked, catching Jamie's eye as they dug into their food. "I'm thinking we can make it happen this summer." "Yes. Can we have a slide?" Jamie asked, his eyes wide with excitement. "A super slide," Lila added, her imagination igniting. "And a secret door." Their enthusiasm felt like balm to Joe's heart. He envisioned the days ahead, the children laughing as they built memories together. The idea of their home transformed into a lively space brought back a flicker of hope inside him. As the afternoon wore on, the easy conversation shifted into the uncharted territory of the auction. "What if it goes too high?" Joe asked, his voice cracking slightly, almost afraid to say the words aloud. "You'll do great, Dad," Lila reassured him, her small hand squeezing his. "We believe in you." Her trust hit him like a wave. Would he be able to do this for them? For their family? Maybe this was exactly the motivation he needed to overcome his fears. With the encouragement of his kids, a flicker of confidence sparked within him. As they finished up, Joe's gaze fell upon the auction pamphlet poking out of his backpack, a reminder of what awaited him. There was a decision looming, as daunting as it was hopeful. He couldn't ignore the fluttering in his stomach. This wasn't just about the house, it was about their future. Joe looked down at his children, laughter sending ripples of love through the air. The picnic had been simple yet profound, a day filled with possibilities. His heart raced as he imagined all the ways he could shape their lives, starting with just one brave step. Returning home, the reality hit him like a tidal wave. The auction would begin soon, each moment more urgent than the last. As they packed away the remnants of their delightful day, Joe paused to take a deep breath. Was he ready? The thought echoed in his mind as he finally held up the pamphlet, staring into the chance it represented. Something big was coming, something life-changing. And he was about to step into it. Could he really take that leap? The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the yard as Joe felt the weight of the auction pamphlet in his hand. It was a heavy reminder, filled with potential and dread. He walked into the living room, where the echoes of laughter still lingered, but the reality of the impending challenge pulled him back into thought. "Dad, can we play a game?" Jamie's cheerful voice pierced through his introspection. It was like an invitation to momentarily escape the clutches of anxiety. "Sure, buddy. What do you want to play?" Joe replied, trying to match his energy, but his mind raced with thoughts of numbers and bids. "Hide and seek," Lila shouted, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Joe nodded, shaking off the anxiety. "Okay, I'll count first. You two go hide." As he turned his back and began to count, he forced himself to breathe, drawing in the sweetness of the moment. The smell of grass mixed with the distant scent of grilled burgers from a neighbor's barbecue. 20. 1. He could feel the vibrant energy of his children buzzing around him, their laughter infused with joy as they dashed in opposite directions. The weight of the auction seemed to dissipate in the face of such innocence. 30. "Ready or not, here I come," Joe called out, a smile creeping across his face. He let the small game transport him away from worries. Keeping his eyes open for Jamie and Lila became an exhilarating distraction, a way to fill the gap between his hopes and fears. He spotted Lila first, tucked behind the old oak tree, trying her best to stifle a giggle. "Found you, Lila," he exclaimed, scooping her up into a playful embrace. "Not fair, Dad. You're too good at this," she squealed, her heart soaring with delight. "Just wait until I find Jamie. He's sneaky," Joe teased, as they both began searching for the little boy. It took a moment, but eventually, Jamie poked his head out from behind a garden shed, grinning like a Cheshire cat. "I wasn't hiding. I just wanted to see what you guys were doing." Joe laughed, the sound booming around them, filling up their small backyard with warmth. It was moments like these that made him realize what mattered most. They ended their game tangled in laughter, laying on the grass, breathing heavily, the world outside irrelevant and distant. But still, creeping in were the sharp reminders of the auction. Joe's thoughts raced back to the daunting decision he was about to make. Suddenly, Lila reached for the pamphlet, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "What's this, Dad?" she asked innocently. Joe felt a pang in his heart. How could he explain the significance it held, the stakes tied inexorably to their future? "It's just something about the auction, honey. A chance to get a new place for us," he managed to say, swallowing hard. She looked at him with those deep, trusting eyes. "Can we go see it together?" He was taken aback by her request. Just like that, the idea of confronting the uncertainty turned tangible. Joe realized he had to embrace this moment. He owed it to them. The thought of hunting for a home together with his children stirred something deep within him, a determination to face the fear that had haunted him for weeks. "Sure, sweetheart, we can visit it together," he replied, feeling a warmth bloom in his chest. "But first, it's time for dinner." As they traipsed back inside, clutching each other's hands, Joe felt a newfound sense of purpose aligning with the nebulous future that waited for them. There was something powerful about embracing this uncertainty with his kids by his side. And as they sat down at the dinner table, laughter bubbling over the dishes, a question lingered in the air. Would the auction bring them closer to their dreams, or would it unravel the threads of their joyful life? The next day dawned crisp and clear, a fitting backdrop for what lay ahead. Joe stood by the kitchen window, savoring the coffee's warmth, his thoughts a whirlpool of anticipation and dread. He glanced at Lila and Jamie, still lost in their own world, laughing and playing nearby. They were everything to him, his heart, his hope. Today's the day, he murmured to himself, feeling a knot in his stomach tighten. The auction wasn't just about bricks and walls, it was a test of faith, a leap into the unknown. As they gathered for breakfast, each bite felt heavy with unspoken words. Joe was struck by his children's innocence. They were blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beyond their breakfast table, worries, fears, hopes all colliding. "Dad, are we going to the auction soon?" Jamie asked, his face bright with eagerness. Joe nodded, forcing a smile. "We are. Just after breakfast. Remember, it's a chance for us all." Lila reached for his hand, squeezing it reassuringly. "We believe in you, Dad. You'll do great." Their faith struck a chord in his heart, keeping him grounded in the turbulence of uncertainty. At that moment, Joe realized they were his anchor. With breakfast done, the three of them piled into the car, excitement bubbling as they drove toward the auction. The town's familiar sights rushed past, the old diner, the park where they had their last picnic, the bakery with its sweet aroma wafting through the air. Each landmark jogged cherished memories, igniting hope within the depths of his heart. As they approached the auction venue, the reality of the situation loomed like an impending storm. The atmosphere buzzed with murmurs, whispers of shared stories and communal anxiety surrounding them. Yet, through it all, Joe felt his children's presence, a sturdy lifeline amidst the chaotic energy. They took their seats in the packed auditorium filled with skeptical faces and eager bidders, each individual representing a unique combination of hope and desperate need. Joe's heart raced as the auctioneer took center stage, the hammer and gavel glistening ominously in the spotlight. "Now, let us begin," the auctioneer declared, a brisk, commanding voice slicing through the chatter. Joe squeezed his children's hands tightly, whispering, "Whatever happens, we're in this together." Their nods brought a surge of courage, but beneath it all, his pulse quickened with every number thrown into the air by the auctioneer. The bidding began, and Joe felt the tide of his emotions rise and fall in rhythm with each increasing bid. Tick, tick, tick. 5,000. Do I hear 6? The auctioneer cried with booming enthusiasm. Joe's heart raced. This was it. He could save them. 6. He heard himself shout, surprising even himself, the words reverberating through the crowd. A wave of tension washed over the room, heads turning to regard him. The chances seemed entirely too high, but the fiery urgency of the moment rushed through him. He was not just bidding on a house, he was betting on their future, on the laughter and love they would share within those walls. Each number brought back brief echoes of his life before, of Marcy, love, loss, dreams. Going once, going twice. 7,000. The auctioneer declared, and Joe's heart sank, uncertainty creeping back in. 8. He yelled, determination igniting him. His voice rang out louder than he felt. The crowd responded with hushed gasps, and another bidder took the floor, a lingering uncertainty enveloping the room. The stakes were rising high. Sold. The auctioneer bellowed, and for a moment, time stopped. Joe blinked, absorbing the waves of emotion crashing against him. It felt surreal, as if the world shifted around him. They had done it. They had reclaimed a future. Cheers erupted from all sides, but the loudest one came from Lila and Jamie, eyes wide with excitement. They beamed at him with pride, their joy palpable, grounding him amidst the elation of victory. "We did it, Dad!" Jamie shouted, bouncing in his seat. Lila clapped her hands. The emotions spun in a whirlwind, pulling at his heart like threads weaving a new tapestry. A family reborn, a journey beginning anew. As they walked hand in hand out of the auction hall, the sun's warm rays enveloped them like a gentle embrace. "This is just the start, huh?" Joe said, looking down at his children, who had become the embodiment of hope and strength. "Yeah. It's gonna be an adventure," Lila said, eyes sparkling like the stars above. He grinned, feeling the weight of the world shift. An adventure indeed. Together. Time and again, they faced challenges, and yes, the road ahead wouldn't always be smooth. But with laughter, understanding, and the love they had kindled together, they could forge ahead into the unknown with courage and hope in their hearts. And now, more than ever, it felt like home. As they stepped through the doorway of their new future, Joe vowed to nurture the bonds they had formed, those ties that would hold strong against whatever life would throw their way. A sturdy foundation replaced the ache in his heart, and for the first time in too long, he felt complete. So, here's the thing, you need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.